Hi everyone, it's Valen again, or as Mr. Dimbleby called me last night on Question Time, Man with Beard. I was extremely disappointed with Question Time yesterday, and it has left me wondering what to think about either the human race or the way that the questions are picked on Question Time. I don't know. That's the problem. If the questions are genuinely picked the way they say they are, which is they're piled up, they're sorted into piles based on subject, and the largest piles get make the cut, kind of thing, then I am disappointed with the human race as a whole, or at least the audience at the Question Time show yesterday in Grays. If it's chosen by the BBC or the Question Time production team, then I feel anger towards them. Trouble is, I don't know. I don't know because that process takes place behind the scenes. Anyway, I'm trying to put this in context because this is about the unasked question, the one that I think should have been the top question, and not just because I was the one who was going to ask it or be one of the ones I was hoping was going to ask it. I don't care whether I got on screen, I did, and I hope you saw me trying to bring Jeremy Hunt down a peg or two. But if you didn't, I wasn't on there for me. I was on there for the people that the question was about. And when you submit a question, you're only allowed up to 30 words maximum. So I'm not going to use the exact wording that I use for them because I'm going to put a bit of context to why I'm asking the question, and I'm not too happy with the wording that I had to use. Okay, so the unasked question, and the most important thing for a lot of people, if they've got a heart in this country, and this is the UK because I'm posting this to YouTube, is back in March of this year, Ian Duncan Smith, the Minister for Work and Pensions, said that getting people off of benefits was compassionate conservatism at its best. In a week when just a couple of days ago the Independent Living Fund was stopped, which allows people with disabilities to have an independent life. Quite a well-named fund then. That was stopped. Is that really the definition of compassionate? I wouldn't have asked it that angrily, but I'm not on TV now, am I? Now, let's go a little bit more into the context of where that stands in the cuts that affect disabled people. One, the Tories, helped ably by the Lib Dems, closed down some Remploy places, factories, whatever, which employed disabled people and gave them a chance to contribute to society and taxes, possibly. Although, as it was a government thing, they probably weren't paid enough. And threw them onto benefits again. Okay? We also have the fact that disabled people are 9 times more affected by the austerity cuts than any other group. We also had the fact that before the election, £12 billion worth of cuts were advertised as being taken from the DWP budget, but that they hadn't done any work at all on where those cuts were going to be coming from. Yet, within hours of the result of the election being made public, the DWP, Department of Work and Pensions, sorry for not saying that earlier for those who don't come from the UK, issued, or published rather, the impact assessment on capping spending on the Access to Work Fund. The Access to Work Fund is to allow adaptations to be made so that people with disabilities can stay in work if they're already in work, or get a job if that was not if that is what they were doing. If they're going into a job, that new employer could make adaptations for them so they could have that job. Hardly seems like compassion, does it? And also in a week when Ian Duncan Smith, Minister for Work and Pensions, says that they're thinking of cutting the work-related activity group payment for people on employment support allowance, or ESA. Great. That's another 30 quid that Ian Duncan Smith wants to take away from the most vulnerable people. Now, I don't like the fact that the Independent Living Fund has been scrapped. I never personally was able to apply for it. I wouldn't have been eligible. That doesn't mean to say that I shouldn't be angry that that fund has stopped. It's called compassion. And I've looked it up in the Concise Oxford Dictionary, and it comes between, for Tory voters and Tory MPs, it comes between compass card and compassionate, if you'd like to look it up and see what the real definition of compassion is. I do apologise. And what this seems to me, Ian Duncan Smith, do apologise, my phone has just gone off. I do apologise. I firmly believe that the Tory party and Ian Duncan Smith especially like the idea of redefining words. He's already redefined, thank you very much, the way that poverty is to be calculated. So it's not that you don't get enough money, it's, do you have life chances? Well, that's fine. Some kids may go to a good school but still be in poverty. It says nothing about whether they are actually getting enough food to eat. It doesn't say whether the parents have got enough food to eat, whether they can clothe themselves. So a bit off topic, but I think it all comes into one package. It's trying to ground down the disabled and the poor, and it is the worst example of the Orwellian nightmare, the way that different words are now being redefined because the true meaning will be so damaging to the current government. Now, I am not going back to the reason for making this, I am not going to give my answer. I think I already have, in a way, given my answer. What I would like is for people to comment on this video below, and answer the question in a week when the Independent Living Fund, that allows disabled people to end up wallowing on benefits because they're stuck indoors, because maybe their care needs, because they can't now pay for them out of the Independent Living Fund, they are now stuck indoors. They may have to lose work. It's, is that really compassionate conservatism at its best? Is that really the definition that we want of compassion? Thank you for listening.